Okay, so the activity that I chose is a geometry activity. The objectives for my activity is for students to identify the triangle inequality theorem. So the third side of a triangle has to be greater than the difference of the other two, but less than the sum of the other two. And kind of just building off of that, an objective that I would have my students complete is explain why a triangle can or cannot be formed by the given side lengths. And then finally, writing a compound inequality that describes the length of a third side of a triangle given the other two sides. So just figuring out how long the third side can be between what two numbers. The supplies needed, a ruler, raw spaghetti, scissors, and then the worksheet, obviously, that I would provide my students with. Some essential questions, kind of building off of the objectives. How can you find the side length of a third side of a triangle given the other two sides? And then how can you determine whether or not a triangle can be formed given three side lengths? So this is just an overview description of what the activity is. So it kind of makes a little bit more sense when I show the worksheet. But in general, students will be given different lengths in which they must cut their raw spaghetti to fit. So let's say it'll say, cut your raw spaghetti to fit this 3 centimeters. And then they would have the 3 centimeters to measure with it. And then they would try to form a triangle with different side lengths. So sometimes the spaghetti might be too long, sometimes it might be too short. They have to match it endpoint to endpoint, so they can't, if it's too long, they can't count that as a triangle. And then, like I said, sometimes it might be too short. And then the worksheet kind of guides them through questions of like how you can figure out the length of the third side if you have two other side lengths of a triangle. So that's kind of the general activity. So this worksheet on here I will open, but that's kind of how I would assess my students, just as they fill it out and circulating the room. That's kind of the main assessment tool. And then obviously later when they're formally assessed, are they able to write the compound inequality, or are they able to tell me when a triangle can or cannot be formed by given side lengths? So let me go to the worksheet here. So this is the general activity that I would have my students complete. So they would have a ruler, obviously, and they would have to cut the spaghetti using these different side lengths. So first a 5 centimeter piece of spaghetti, a 7 centimeter, a 3 centimeter, and a 10 centimeter. And then before filling this out, they would try to make a triangle out of those given pieces. So using the 5 centimeter, the 7 centimeter, and the 10 centimeter, try to form a triangle matching endpoint to endpoint. And then this kind of guides them through the inequalities. So since these are all true, they should be able to form a triangle given these different side lengths. But then as they go through the worksheet, they will discover that they won't be able to form a triangle. So for example, like step 4, they try to form a triangle using the 3, the 5, and the 10. And they would discover that they cannot, because 3 plus 5 is not greater than 10. So the pieces would be too short. So ideally, they would hopefully fill these out with yes or no's and then discover when there is a no, that triangle cannot be formed. And then this kind of step 6 just kind of talks about that. What was the difference between the triangles you were able to create and the ones you were not? Obviously, the inequality did not hold true. Even for this last one, if 3 plus 7 is not greater than 10, they would hopefully discover that it has to be strictly greater than. And then discovering the theorems, or the theorem, and then just some brief examples at the end. So ideally, hopefully they would discover the triangle inequality theorem and figure out when a triangle can and cannot be formed using the side lengths. The only problems that I could see happening are if they don't cut the spaghetti exactly to these lengths. Like if they accidentally do like 3.5 centimeters, it might, throw things off. So they would have to be very accurate with how they cut the spaghetti. That's really the only big problem I could see happening. And then as long as they follow the directions of matching endpoint to endpoint, they can't kind of like cheat and not match the endpoints up. But other than that, I think this is a great way to have students discover a theorem by physically seeing a triangle cannot be formed, because I think when we talk about it, sometimes they don't really get what that means, but just seeing it physically in front of them and seeing that the side lengths are too short to physically form a triangle, I think it would stick a lot better with them. So that is my STEM activity. I hope you enjoyed it.